We spend so much time thinking about diet and exercise as the pillars of our health. But what if there was another piece to the puzzle, a hidden system, a kind of master clock ticking away inside every single one of your cells? And it might be the secret to your metabolic health and managing your weight. I mean, it's a question so many of us are asking, right? We're told it's just about calories in, calories out. But for a lot of people, it feels like this constant uphill battle. It's like the old rulebook just isn't telling us the whole story anymore. And look, this isn't just a feeling. The data backs it up. According to the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, nearly 40% of adults are dealing with obesity. Think about that for a second. That's almost 2 out of every 5 people. A number that big tells you that there have to be other powerful forces at play, things we've been overlooking. So, in this explainer, we're going to go find that missing piece. We'll start by looking past the simple calorie model to uncover your body's hidden clock. Then, we'll get into how modern life is clashing with that clock, what that does to a really dangerous type of fat, and most importantly, what you can actually do to get your internal rhythm back in sync. All right, let's kick things off by moving beyond just calories. For decades, that's been the main conversation. But we're about to find the missing piece of the puzzle, and it's a factor that's way more powerful than you might think. So here it is, the big idea. We need to start thinking less about what we're doing and more about when we're doing it. The timing of everything, when you eat, when you sleep, when you see light, might be just as crucial as the activities themselves. This could be the key that unlocks this whole thing. And that brings us to the real star of the show, this incredible science of our internal clocks. And no, this isn't science fiction. This is a fundamental part of your biology that we're only now really starting to understand and appreciate. Believe it or not, this whole idea has been kicking around for centuries. It all started way back in 1729 when an astronomer noticed a plant's leaves kept opening and closing on a daily schedule, even when he stuck it in a completely dark closet. Fast forward to the 20th century, and we finally gave it a name, circadian, which is just Latin for approximately a day. So what exactly is it? Well, your circadian rhythm is basically your body's built-in 24-hour clock. It's self-sustaining, it's automatic, and it does way more than just manage sleep. It's the deep biological programming that tells your body when to release certain hormones, when to fire up your metabolism, and when it's time to power down and repair. I absolutely love this analogy. Picture your entire body as this massive, complex orchestra. While the conductor is a tiny little spot in your brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, we'll just call it the SCN. That's your master clock. And it gets to be the conductor because it's the one part of the system that gets direct light signals from your eyes, which it uses to set the tempo for your entire day. And if the brain is the conductor, then all your major organs, your liver, your pancreas, your gut, even your fat tissue, they're the musicians. Each one has its own little local clock. And for your body to work properly, for you to have metabolic harmony, every single musician has to be following the conductor's lead, all perfectly in sync. So how does this clock actually tick at the molecular level? Well, it's this beautiful self-regulating loop. You can see here you've got one set of proteins that basically say go, and they turn on another set of genes that say stop. Then, over the course of the day, those stop proteins build up and up until there are enough of them to block the go proteins. The whole thing shuts down and then it resets every single 24 hours. It's like this tiny, perfect genetic metronome for life, ticking away inside trillions of your cells. Okay, so we've got this amazing, finely tuned internal clock. So what's the problem? The problem is our ancient biology is in a head-on collision with modern life. And this is where the conflict really begins. I mean, just look at the difference here. On one side, you have a day that's perfectly aligned with our biology. You wake up with the sun, you eat when it's light out, you wind down when it gets dark. But on the other side, that's modern reality for a lot of us, right? Waking up in the dark, grabbing late-night snacks, staring at bright screens right before bed, and totally different sleep schedules on the weekend. It creates this massive disconnect. And here are the main culprits behind it all. It's not just your phone screen. Even normal indoor lighting is powerful enough to shift our internal clock. Then there's something called social jet lag. That's the mismatch between when you sleep during the work week versus on the weekends. Shift work is a huge one, throwing a massive wrench in the works for a huge chunk of the population. And of course, late-night eating, which basically tells your organs, hey, it's time to work. When your brain is screaming, it's time to sleep. So what actually happens when our internal orchestra is totally out of tune? Well, the consequences can be pretty serious. And a lot of it has to do with a specific and kind of dangerous type of fat that you can't even see. First off, we need to get one thing straight. Not all body fat is created equal. There's the subcutaneous fat, which is right under your skin, the stuff you can pinch. But then there's visceral fat. This stuff is hidden deep inside your abdomen, wrapped around your vital organs, and that is the fat that's super active and seriously dangerous for your health. So here's the crazy connection. One really interesting study on rats found that when you constantly disrupt their internal clocks, their whole fat storage system starts to break down. Specifically, that dangerous visceral fat, the stuff around the organs, loses its ability to do its job safely. It breaks down, and those harmful byproducts don't just vanish. They get shoved into places they don't belong, like your liver. This harmful reshuffling of fat is a direct line to metabolic problems. Okay, this obviously raises a pretty important question. If this dangerous fat is completely invisible from the outside, how in the world are we supposed to know if we're at risk? Well, luckily, there's actually a pretty simple way to get a good idea: your waist circumference. It's a surprisingly accurate stand-in for measuring visceral fat. But here's the key thing to notice on this chart. These action levels are not one size fits all. The guidelines that work for a US or European population are pretty different from the ones for a Korean rural population. It's a great reminder that our background plays a huge role in our risk factors. All right, so we've laid out the problem, we've looked at the science, and we've talked about the risks. Now for the most important part, what can we actually do about all this? Let's get into some real, practical ways to get our clocks back on track. The research really points to 4 key things you can do. First, manage your light. It is the most powerful signal for your brain's master clock, so get some bright light in the morning and dim everything down at night. Second, time your meals. One study found that people lost more weight eating a big breakfast than a big dinner, even with the exact same number of calories. Third, time your exercise. Working out during the day can help you wake up earlier, while late-night exercise might keep you up later. And finally, keep that sleep schedule as consistent as possible. Really try to minimize that social jet lag, even on the weekends. Which really leaves us with this one big final thought to chew on. We spend so much energy focusing on what to eat and how to move. But what if the most powerful health choice you make every single day isn't what you do, but simply when you do it?